Hellfire missiles locked onto her wings as the battered crop duster banked sharply over the arid training field. F-16s roaring overhead. She keyed her mic, voice steady despite the tremor. Call sign Sparrowhawk 9er, do you copy? At 29. Lieutenant Ava Sinclair had traded her sniper father's hunting blinds for the cockpit of a single-engine workhorse. Each dawn she swept empty fields, calibrating spray nozzles and cleaning her headset with meticulous care. Simple tasks that belied her heritage. The mechanics toiling in the hangar never saw her smooth-gloved hands, tighten torqued nuts or recalibrate the thermal sensor array that kept her alive in a firestorm. She'd grown up listening to her mother's wartime tales, how an elite medic crawled through shrapnel and smoke to patch the worst wounds. Ava carried those stories in her bones, a silent resolve beneath a cool, unreadable gaze. Providence Private Security recruited her for this routine reconnaissance. Scan for unauthorized drones, test early warning grid sensors. Nobody expected trouble until now. Drop a "if you've ever been underestimated," she muttered under her breath, banking above the scrubland. The radio crackled. Unknown aircraft identify or be shot down. Tension coiled in her chest. She tapped the comms. This is Sparrowhawk 9er, routine survey. Authorization code pending. A chase spun into motion as the lead F-16 peeled off, afterburners blazing. In seconds, the fighters shadowed her path, wings slicing the sky. The interceptor pilot contacted her again, voice clipped. Show your code or divert. Threat protocol activated. Sweat beaded at Ava's temple. She slid her hand to the stealth panel, emblazoned with her mother's insignia, her classified call sign. Known only to a select few, the moment came, she pressed the hidden switch. The cockpit lights flared blue, then pale green as the fighters banked away, recognition flickering in their trail. Call sign confirmed, the pilot replied, awe threading his tone. Proceed, Sparrowhawk 9er. Ava exhaled, heart thundering in her ears. The crisis had revealed her secret lineage, yet the aftermath held its own perils. Who tracked her today? And who would now wonder what other shadows she carried? She climbed back toward the compound, mind replaying the encounter. Every gear check, every calibration step had led here, a revelation disguised as routine. Blaze of sunlight glinted off her headset as she touched down, mechanics staring in stunned silence. She stepped off the wing, brittle calm returning. Ever feel like you're invisible until your real colors show? She asked, voice low. Several. Hands flinched at her presence, some with admiration, others with fear. Resolution settled over her as she debriefed. Mission parameters intact, but questions lingered. Who in command had the clearance to bookend her cover? Which allies would step forward now that the secret was airborne? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're from. If this story moves you, please subscribe. Tomorrow, I have a special story for you. The F-16s had vanished into the west, but the compound hadn't returned to normal. Not by a long shot. Ava Sinclair walked the sun-bleached tarmac like a ghost silent composed, eyes shadowed beneath the brim of her cap. Ground crews stared. Some whispered. Others just froze, wrench still clutched midair, hands trembling like they'd seen a ghost. They hadn't seen a ghost. They'd seen the mask. Slip dot inside Hangar 6. The scent of jet fuel clung to corrugated steel walls, mingling with heat and burnt dust. Ava brushed a hand along the edge of her crop duster's wing, no longer just a relic of a dead-end assignment, but now the epicenter of whispers. Hey, Sinclair. She turned slowly. Brady, the tech lead, barely 30, clipboard always glued to his hand, approached with cautious interest. He didn't look at her eyes. He stared just above her shoulder. I ran diagnostics on your engine after landing, he said. Didn't match standard calibration. You did something to the injectors? I optimize, she said simply. Low altitude pattern efficiency. Brady hesitated. You running black box hardware? Her silence stretched. Never mind. He nodded, retreating. Ava adjusted her gloves and walked toward the mission control annex, where concrete corridors. Cool, debunker chill. Her boots echoed sharply. She liked the quiet. She hated being followed. Today, the corridors weren't quiet. Major Halvorsen stood outside the command center, jaw tight, thumb hammering his tablet. His comms officer, Sergeant Lee, stood beside him, half grimace, half awe in her expression. You didn't declare the call sign, Halvorsen said when Ava approached. You should have informed us before the sortie. I couldn't, Ava said evenly. He frowned. Couldn't? The sign is red-listed. Lee's brows lifted. Which agency? Halvorsen pressed. I can't say. Only that you're not. Cleared. A sharp silence snapped between them. Then, finally, Halvorsen shifted weight. Your plane's grounded. Until I get authorization from Central Command, you're restricted to compound limits. Ava nodded. She had expected this. By the way, Halvorsen added, you'll be assigned to tower shift. Starting now. The tower rose like a steel skeleton above the sand-choked horizon. Radio relays and surveillance panels humming day and night. From the control deck, Ava could see the flight line, the motor pool, the mess hall. But more than that she could see who watched her. They weren't subtle. They won. Someone logged into her console mid-shift. Day 2, her comms history had gaps. Day 3, a courier drone trailed her for 27 minutes before veering off. And then came the envelope. It wasn't sent through secure chain. It wasn't stamped with clearance codes. It just appeared, taped under her chair in the tower. Unmarked. Inside, one photograph. A thermal sat image, 36 hours old, of a downed drone foreign build, crumpled in canyon scrub. Handwritten beneath it, Sparrowhawk, we need your eyes. No signature. No instructions. But Ava didn't need either. She slipped the photo inside her flight jacket and burned the envelope in the incinerator. At midnight, she left her bunk and made her way to Hangar 9, officially under renovation, unofficially where no one patrolled. Crop duster was there. It shouldn't have been. She ran a gloved hand beneath its fuselage. A slight bulge in the paneling, fresh weld. Not hers, she found it fast. A sealed capsule behind a magnetic plate. Inside, a microdrive and a single line on a readout screen. 056 Delta. Prioritize retrieval. Intercept window 335 Zulu. No backup. She checked the clock. She had 30 minutes. Iva fueled the plane manually. Checked flaps, toggled nav instruments, adjusted to low noise mode. She flipped the interior transponder to black mode, a trick her father taught her back when they practiced dodging searchlights in old storm bunkers. At 3:34, she rolled onto the tarmac with her lights off. She lifted off into a moonless sky, heading east by southeast. 30 minutes later, she spotted the crash site, a canyon shaped like an open palm. Charred metal, angular, not local. She dropped low. Thermal scopes flickered. 3 figures, armed, not U.S. military. She dropped lower. One of the figures waved. Ava kept one hand on the yoke and reached for her custom rig. Not a weapon. A sensor array she'd built from salvage tech, something that could decode foreign signals fast. She looped the valley, triangulating pings. 2 drones nearby, in waiting pattern. They weren't here for cleanup. They were bait. And she'd flown into it. Machine gun tracer fire arced skyward. Ava cut the engine and dropped like a stone, pulling hard just before the valley lip. She skimmed the edge and vanished behind the canyon ridge. Drop if you've ever had to make a choice faster than you could breathe, she whispered, pulling her oxygen mask tighter. She flew silent, hugging terrain. The second drone fired. Not at her, at the wreck. The flash lit the valley. They were erasing the evidence. She slammed the throttle, broke ridgeline, and punched the flare release. The drone's targeting jammed for 3 seconds, long enough for her to snap photos of the wreck's internal chassis and the figures fleeing east. One of them looked up. Masked Dot, but she knew that stance. That frame. Ava banked left and pulled hard for altitude. If she stayed, she'd die. If she ran, she could report. She made it back just before sunrise. Fuel tank blinking red. Skin frozen from high-altitude push. Hangar 9 was already sealed. Soldier she didn't recognize stood guard. He didn't stop her. Just handed her a new envelope. You saw him, didn't you? No signature again. Just a single edition. 3rd time's the charm. She stared at the words for a long time. 3rd time. The man at the wreck wasn't just a threat. He was familiar. Personal. She turned toward the compound. Something deeper was unfolding, and she'd just stepped into its second act. Drop a. If you've ever been pulled back into something you thought you escaped. Cliffhanger. As Ava slips the photo into her jacket, a drone silently hovers behind her, unmarked, silent, watching. Its light turns red. The drone's red light pulsed like a heartbeat in the dark. Ava didn't move. She could feel its lens locked on her, cataloging every breath, every blink. The envelope in her jacket suddenly felt like a live wire. She'd stepped into this knowing the risks, but even for her, this was fast. Too fast. She shifted her weight. The drone adjusted, still silent. Still watching. It wasn't military. No ID, no tail number. It was custom. Someone spent money keeping it off the grid. She raised her hand slowly and keyed the signal jammer clipped to her boot. Just a whisper of static across frequencies. Not enough to fry it, just enough to break its live feed. The light blinked twice. Then dimmed. It was gone. She let out a breath. She hadn't realized she was holding. Ava turned back toward the compound, walking slowly, deliberately. She needed answers, not from command. From whoever left the message in her jacket. Whoever knew what she'd seen. And more importantly, who he was. The man at the wreck. By 0600, the base was stirring. Dust swirled between barracks and mess hall. Doors. Most of the techs avoided her now, some out of respect, some out of fear. Her flight path the night before had been scrubbed from the logs. But Ava knew better. In places like this, nothing was ever really erased. She walked straight to Archive Room 12. The door had a fingerprint scanner. Locked for everyone but 3 people, Helverson, Lee, and Commander Rook. Ava didn't bother knocking. She slid her access card through the backup slot and pressed her thumb to the override. The system CHIRPD. Green light. The door opened. The room was dark, lined with old server banks and faded topographic charts. Cold, sterile, dead, until she reached the back. There, an encrypted terminal sat dormant, its screen black. But the power cord was warm. Recently used. Ava tapped the console. A login screen flashed. She didn't use her credentials. Instead, she keyed in a string of alphanumerics, a legacy cipher her father once carved into the underside of a rifle case. She hadn't used it in years. The system blinked. Unlocked. Folders. Spilled open internal scans, decrypted cum logs, intercepts from 5 different satellite arrays. But one folder pulsed in red. Op Ashfall. She clicked it. The drone wreck was there. High-res photos. Breakdown of its shell composition. Composite metals from Eastern Europe. Modified signature flares. Scrambled black box. She clicked deeper. Personnel. Overlays, watch lists. One file opened with a biometric. Scan facial recognition overlaying the man she'd seen fleeing the wreck. Match. 94%. Name. Callan Rourke. She staggered back. He wasn't just familiar. He was her former instructor. 5 years ago. During her brief training rotation in the Balkans, he'd overseen cross-division coordination between civilian responders and tactical recon teams. They'd sparred once. She broke his wrist. He'd called her too soft after that. Then, disappeared 6 months later. Rumors said he defected. Now he was back, and watching drones burn. The tower duty was cancelled by 0900. Halvorsen called her in instead. "Sit," he said, pointing to the chair across from his desk. She didn't. She stood. "You went out last night," he said. "Want to explain? You grounded me." "I stayed in," she said. He exhaled. "Don't lie. I didn't fly a registered craft." "That's not a defense." "I didn't." "Say it was." He studied her for a long beat. "You intercepted a hostile op. You photographed it, and you saw him." Ava didn't flinch. "I can't protect you from this," he said. "Not if you keep running blind ops." "I didn't run." "Anything," I responded. "To who?" She was silent. Halvorsen slammed a folder down. "You've been activated." She blinked. "What?" He slid the folder toward her. Inside, a sealed orders slip dot from Command Level 7. Higher than anyone on base. "You're off the books," he sighed. "Effective immediately." Ava opened the envelope. The orders were brief. Operation Chalice. Objective: locate subject Rourke. Track and report. Clearance granted. All assets. Limited oversight. There was a second sheet. Asset assigned Omega-3. Ava single quotes. S mouth went dry. Omega-3 wasn't a person. It was a unit designation. A ghost team. She'd heard rumors off-grid specialists trained. In deniable operations. No insignia. No names. "I didn't sign up for wet work," she said. Halvorsen shook his head. "You didn't, but they tagged you anyway." She stared at the orders. "Where's my exfil?" The hangar was eerily quiet as she approached. Inside, a sleek, unmarked tiltrotor. Matte black, no registry, nose pointed east. Of aborted. There were 2 people already inside. One she recognized. Sergeant Lee. The other was a woman. Early 40s. Sharp cheekbones. Eyes like a scalpel. She stood as Ava entered. "You're late. Didn't realize this was a social call." The woman didn't smile. "I'm Captain Rena Hall. You're now under joint command. For the duration of operation. Chalice, your past record is sealed. Your future contingent." Lee passed Ava a tablet. On it, new mission parameters. Region, Northern Cascades. Signal intercepts linked to Rourke. Objective: locate origin of unauthorized drone transmissions. Field role: signal recon plus aerial insertion. Ava sat. Droppa if you've ever had. Your quiet life torched overnight. She murmured. The tiltrotor lifted. The cascades loomed like jagged bones as they flew low, skimming fog banks. The ride was silent. No chatter. Just the low hum of rotors and the occasional glint of distant eyes deer maybe. Or something else. They landed at an abandoned ranger outpost. Nestled in the mountains, no active utilities, no satellite uplink. It was perfect for staying hidden. Inside, Hall pulled a tarp off the table. Beneath it, parts of another drone. Torn, singed. "Just like the wreck in the canyon. We recovered this 2 days ago," she said. "Not local, not commercial, not even military." "Who's building them?" Ava asked. "That's what you're going to find out." She tossed Ava a set of thermal goggles. "You've got first shift. Eyes on the ridge. If Rourke's out there, he'll know we're here." Ava took the gear. Let's hope he makes a mistake. It was almost midnight when Ava saw the flare. Barely a glimmer across the ridge, but not random. 3 flashes. Long, short, long. Old code. Code her father taught her. Code only a few still knew. She didn't radio it in. She grabbed her pack and slipped into the night. The cliffside trail was narrow. Loose shale underfoot. One wrong step and she'd fall 100 feet. The flashes appeared again. Same code. Same rhythm. When she reached the ridge, a figure stood waiting. Hood up, face in shadow. "You're late," he said. Her blood froze. She knew that voice. Rourke. He stepped forward, raising his hands. No weapon. We need to talk, he said. It's not what you think. Ava stared at him, every muscle tight. You ran, she said. I didn't have a choice. She shook her head. You came back. You left wreckage. You brought drones into civilian zones. I brought warnings. He pulled something from his coat. A microdrive. Take it. Read it, then decide. She didn't reach for it. Drop it. She said. He did. Then he turned and vanished into the trees. She picked it up. Back at the outpost. She inserted the drive. On screen. Footage. Not just of the drones. Of people, commanders, businessmen, foreign diplomats. All around a table. Talking. Plotting. Civilian surveillance must stay hidden. Until Phase 3. She leaned back. Phase 3, she rewound. Froze on one frame. Her base. Commander, Halvorsen, and behind him someone she never expected to see. Her mother. The screen flickered. Ava froze. Her mother, hair shorter, face harder than she remembered, stood in the shadow of Halvorsen, backlit by the glow of a war room monitor. The microdrive footage wasn't doctored. It was too raw. Too perfect in its imperfection. She leaned closer. Civilian integration is not the question, her mother said, her voice clipped, exact. The question is whether we can afford not to continue Phase 3. Ava's pulse thundered. Hall and Lee had gone silent the moment the footage began. Hall watched with the grim stoicism of someone used to disasters unfolding in slow motion. Lee just whispered, "What the hell is this?" Ava fast-forwarded. More meetings. More coded dialogue. The phrase adaptive silence grid repeated. They weren't just watching civilians. They were testing neural mapping, using drone signals to hijack localized frequencies and reshape behavior patterns. Mind control. On paper, it sounded like conspiracy. In motion, it was a weapon, and her mother was in the center of it. The outpost was locked down. Hall paced while Lee scrambled to reroute the SAT relay. This isn't protocol, Hall hissed. This is above Joint Command. If she's involved, she's not, Ava said. You sure? No. She hated how her voice cracked. Hall took the drive. We're moving to fallback grid. This place is burned. Where? Ava asked. Hall didn't answer. She pressed her finger to a panel behind a storage crate. The floor groaned. An elevator descended. Beneath the outpost was a subterranean chamber Ava had only heard of in rumors. Cored straight into bedrock. No satellite coverage. No radio echo. Inside, 6 monitors. 1 central console. A weapons rack, mostly empty. And 3 black lockers, each sealed with palm scan authentication. This is Omega-3's secondary ops cell, Hall said. We don't use it unless the net collapses. It's collapsed, Lee muttered. Ava sank into the central chair. You think Rourke knew all this? He defected for a reason. Yeah, but why me? No one answered. By nightfall, the satellite link was partially functional. Ava back-channeled through a signal mask, routing her connection through 6 dead towers and 1 burned-out weather station. She searched the one name. She never thought she'd need clearance for Dr. Elise Sinclair. The system flagged the name. 6 redacted files, 1 open link. Status, relocated. Access level, Blacksall. That wasn't military. That was private. Someone had bought her mother's clearance. She didn't sleep. By morning, new orders came, not from Hall, not from Lee, a black envelope slid under the blast door, as if the mountain itself had delivered it. Ava opened it. Location, Bunker 01. Coordinates attached. Rourke has gone off-grid. Assume he's already compromised. Retrieve Sinclair asset. Below, a second line. No survivors permitted if asset resists. Hall stared at the message. Don't you dare, she said. I'm not going to kill my mother. Then we have a problem. The exfil path was brutal. 3-day trek through high-altitude terrain, past frost-crusted switchbacks and snow-melt rivers. Ava traveled light. Just her pack, her headset, and the encrypted sensor module she'd built herself. Each night she scanned for drone signatures. Each night she found one. They were tailing her, not attacking. Just watching, a reminder, we see you, bunker. 01 was exactly where the coordinates claimed. A half-buried installation beneath a glacier wall, accessible only by rappelling into a fissure and activating a biometric panel coded to Legacy Omega. Agents, Ava didn't have access, but she had instincts. She found a vent shaft wide enough to crawl. Inside, stale air. Faint hum of generators. Distant footsteps. She dropped silently into the lower hall, ducked behind coolant tanks, and listened. Her mother's voice rang clear through the concrete. If she finds this place, she understand. I know she will. This isn't betrayal. It's prevention. Another voicemail, older. She won't understand. She'd destroy it, her mother sighed. She's her father's daughter. Ava moved closer. A wall of servers flickered in blue-white patterns. Monitors showed brainwave maps, streets, schools, airports. Live footage. This isn't prevention, Ava whispered. It's occupation. She stepped into the light. Her mother turned. Hello, Ava. Silence crashed over the room. You're alive, Elise said. Ava raised her weapon. Step away from the console. I knew you'd come. Then you. Know what I have to do? No, Elise said. What you have to do is listen. For 3 hours, they sat. Elise explained everything. How civilian aggression data had been spiking. How standard protocols failed. How after an unauthorized kinetic strike on a civilian crowd, private backers stepped in. How many people know? Ava asked. Less than a dozen. The operation can't survive sunlight. You're rewriting behavior. We're filtering risk. Through neural targeting. Her mother didn't flinch. It saves lives. At the cost of freedom. Elise leaned in. I did this to protect you. Ava stared. That's not protection, she whispered. That's control. And then a new voice cut in, one Ava never expected to hear. You're both wrong. Rourke. He stepped from the shadows, sidearm drawn. I told you she'd come, Elise said softly. I followed her, he growled. And you left the back. Door open. Ava raised her weapon. Put it down. I'm not here to fight. He tossed the drive he carried before. Different now. New. Watch it. It's the other side of the coin. Ava hesitated, then played it. Footage loaded. Hospitals. Children. Panic. Then silence. Then perfect order. Programmed order. Ava stepped back. You're both insane. No, Elise said. We're desperate. Sirens blared. Remote breach detected. Lee's voice cut through a static-riddled come. Ava, multiple drone signals incoming. Hundreds. They're zeroing on your beacon. I didn't activate it, Ava said. I did, Elise said softly. To buy you time. Rourke stared at her. You doomed us. Not us, Elise said. Me. She shoved Ava and Rourke through the back corridor. The bunker detonated behind them. They survived. By inches. Ava woke to silence. Smoke. Fire. Rourke was gone. Ava stood, jacket torn, headset sparking. She looked down the valley. Drones filled the sky. Not attacking. Waiting. She lifted her transponder. This is Sparrowhawk 9er, she said. Calling Omega. I have new intel. Operation Chalice is compromised. My mother is gone. Rourke's loose. And they know we're coming. A pause, then a reply. Copy that, Sparrowhawk. Revectoring now. Hold position. We're not done yet. Ava stared at the sky. Not done, not by a long shot. The drones didn't strike. They hovered, an aerial standoff. Ava crouched on the ridge, her breath shallow, every muscle tense. 50 meters above her, one of the larger drones rotated slowly, its undercarriage revealing a fresh payload mount, unfired, locked. Why wait? Below, The valley flickered with scattered fires, the last embers of Bunker 01 smoldering under a blanket of smoke and frozen ash. Elise Sinclair was gone, but she'd bought Ava time. She pulled her cracked headset over one ear and rerouted. "Comes to Hall's last known channel. This is Sparrowhawk Niner," she said, low and clipped. "Immediate extraction required. I have top-level data on Operation Chalice. Hostile drone presence confirmed. Location compromised. Static then. Copy." "That," Hall's voice cut through. "ET at 20 minutes. We're hot. Sit tight." Ava's eyes didn't leave the sky. She didn't have 20 minutes. The first drone shifted. Ava ducked into the crevice beneath a glacial shelf, fingers moving fast. She yanked open the compartment on her wrist-mounted interface. The device sparked, water damaged. She cursed it and switched to analog override. Out of her pack came a slim cylinder, an old pulse code beacon. Manual frequency lock. She hadn't used it since the Balkans. She set it for 2746.9, the one frequency she knew the drones weren't deaf to. Then she waited. 5 seconds. 10. Then the largest drone paused midair and tipped slightly. It heard her. "Droppa, if you've ever spoken into the void and prayed something listened." She whispered. The drone blinked. Blue dot then retreated. Ava's breath caught. It wasn't attacking because it recognized her. Or rather, it recognized her mother. The call sign. The tech signature. The neural beacon. Whatever Elise built, it was. Now protecting Ava. For now. Hall's tiltrotor descended like a ghost through the fog. Ava ran, pack bouncing against her spine, headset sparking. Lee opened the rear hatch, eyes wide. "Where's Rourke?" Lee yelled. "Gone," Ava said. "He ran during the blast." Hall grabbed her arm and pulled her inside. They lifted. Below. The drones began to scatter, but not all of them. One drone larger than the rest. Matte black, different profile dash remained. It followed at distance. Back at the Omega-3 fallback site, an underground depot beneath a decommissioned coal plant. Ava handed Hall the drive Elise had given her. Hall said nothing, just slid it into a shielded reader and began watching. Lee paced. "What is this?" she asked. "What do they want? Who do they answer to?" "No one," Ava said. "That's the point." The footage rolled. Elise's final confessional. A direct-to-record message. "If you're seeing this, Ava, I'm gone. Rourke thinks he's salvaging something, but he doesn't understand the depth. I stayed because I had to monitor them from inside. Because if someone didn't watch the watchers, this whole thing would rot. They're building something new, not just surveillance, not just drones. They're working on the substrate. Neural resonance control. A way to alter emotion, thought, reaction without consent, without detection. The project was never called Chalice. It was called Obelisk." Ava leaned forward. "Obelisk?" Lee stared. "Never heard of it." Hall didn't blink. "I have." Hall closed the feed. "Obelisk started during the Gulf War," she said. "Rumors, whispers, a DARPA experiment in influence without visibility. Never made it past phase 1. "It made it past," Ava said, "and they buried it." Hall nodded. "Which means someone pulled it out. Rourke?" "Unlikely. He's a vulture, not a builder." "Then who?" Lee brought up satellite feeds. "We picked up an unauthorized burst signal right after the bunker explosion, triangulated east, into Nevada." "Desert installations?" Ava asked. "Worse." Hall pointed. "They're hiding inside a decommissioned nuclear test site. The new mission was simple. Track the signal. Intercept the architect. Extract Rourke, if possible. Kill him, if not." They flew low, under radar. Through dusk-colored skies over scrubland and sun-bleached craters. By midnight, they touched down on sand. Hall handed Ava a custom weapon. Not a rifle. A pulse anchor. Prototype. Fires a kinetic spike that overrides any drone's command. Hierarchy briefly giving the user control. Don't miss, Hall said. You'll only get one shot before it fries. The entrance to the test site was buried beneath debris. But the old access tunnels remained. Ava led. Lee covered rear. Hall watched the shadows. Inside, darkness. Crumbling walls. Decades-old rot, until they reached the central hub. Dozens of terminals and drones not flying, hanging on racks. Being coded and at the center, a man, not Rourke, a younger man, clean-cut, glasses, fingers flying across. A keyboard. He didn't look up. You're late, he said. Who are you? Hall barked. He smiled. The future. Ava aimed. You have 10 seconds. I've already won, he said. He pressed a button. The drones lit up. Chaos. Metal arms unfolding. Blades spinning. Lights turning red. Hall fired. Lee ducked. Ava ran. She leapt onto a raised platform, dodging claws, and leveled the pulse anchor at the largest drone. It turned to face her. Red eyes locked. She fired. Blue light exploded. Across the chamber, the drone froze. Then turned, against its own. The others faltered. Hall and Lee moved fast, planting charges, sweeping for hostiles. The young man screamed, "You don't understand. They're learning. This is evolution." Ava walked to him, eyes cold. Then consider this natural selection. She hit him with the stock of her sidearm. He dropped. They extracted him in cuffs. Rourke was nowhere to be found, but the data they recovered was damning. Blueprints, deployment maps, lists of compromised officials. Obelisk wasn't small. It was a network, and it had already begun testing in live environments. Back at Omega-3 Command, Ava sat alone. The others debriefed. Cleaned gear. Recovered. She stared at the final log Elise left. If Ava finds this, she know I loved her. That I always did, even when I made choices she wouldn't understand. She was born for more than obedience. She was born to ask the questions others are afraid of. Be the storm, Ava, not the silence. Tears slipped down Ava's cheek. She turned off the feed, then stood outside. Hall waited. We decrypted a name, she said. From the Nevada op, a code holder. Who? Hall handed her a file. Inside, a face Ava hadn't seen in years. Commander Halvorson. He wasn't just part of Obelisk. He was one of the founders, and he was still at her original compound, waiting. The file burned in her hand. Ava stared at Halvorson's photograph, the same calm, neutral expression he'd worn every morning on base. She remembered his routine. Black coffee, 0500 PT, quick nods, clipped sentences. A man of order. Not a man who masterminded psychological warfare. But the evidence was clear. Biometrics, transfers, logged clearances. His signature had authorized the Nevada asset. His voice was captured in the test footage. He wasn't a pawn. He was the architect. She looked up from the file. Hall stood beside her, arms crossed. You sure you're ready for this? Hall asked. No, Ava said. But I'm going. Then we're going with you. The return to the compound was surgical. Omega-3 deployed a false training alert to clear the southern perimeter. A fabricated outbreak in the mess hall locked down most staff. 3 tiltroiders came in low, masked by a storm cell, touching down inside the maintenance corridor, where sensor coverage was weakest. Ava led the breach team. She wore no insignia, no name tag, just her mother's encrypted transponder sewn inside. Her collar and the micro-implant her father had programmed into a satellite compass when she was 14. It pulsed now like it knew. Hall and Lee followed behind, their expressions locked. They moved fast, silent, shadows in a place they once called home. Halvorson's office was empty. His comms weren't. Calcined Sparrowhawk 9er, a robotic voice said from the wall terminal, "You shouldn't be here." Ava stepped closer. "Where is he?" You mean the man you knew as Halvorsen? The voice replied. He no longer exists. The screen flickered. Footage played. Halvorsen older. Colder sitting at a desk in a bunker somewhere deep. I knew you'd find this, Ava, he said, voice pre-recorded. I watched you from the moment your name entered the roster. You were always meant to get here. Because you carry a mind built for patterns and a heart cursed with clarity. Lee cursed. He wants you to follow him. He's making this personal, Ava said. No, Hall corrected. He always made it personal. The message ended with coordinates, encrypted. But Ava recognized the terrain overlay. Ukraine, she said. Abandoned research facility, Cold War relic. Hall checked her tablet. We'll need deep clearance to even get within 100 clicks. Lee smiled grimly. Or we break the rules again. They flew through the black of early dawn, doglegging across 3 air corridors to avoid NATO eyes, then dropped into Ukraine. Under the cover of a diplomatic transport mission, the cold bit deeper than expected. The research facility loomed like a wound in the earth, half-sunken, iron doors fused with rust, the ground soaked in decades of secrets. Inside, silence. Ava led. The breach, the main floor was gutted, collapsed ceilings, broken monitors, snow-dusted consoles. But below, the elevator shaft was powered, recent wiring. New tech, she keyed her beacon. It, CHIRPED. Green light. They descended. At the bottom, the walls were lined with reflective alloy. Insulated, temperature controlled. Too modern for an abandoned site. Welcome, Sparrowhawk, the voice echoed. This time, it was live. Halvorsen. You've traveled far, he said. It's time you saw the truth. Ava kept moving. Cameras tracked them. Doors opened with magnetic hiss. Until finally, they reached a vaulted chamber filled with cables, cryotanks, and a central throne-like chair. Occupied. Halvorsen sat strapped to a neural interface, cables snaking from his temples into the machine. You're too late, he said softly. The merge has begun. What merge? Ava snapped. Mind machine, intention, he smiled faintly. You think this is war. It's not. It's evolution. You tortured minds, she said. I freed them, he whispered. From randomness, from chaos. We built Obelisk to stabilize what humanity couldn't. Hall stepped forward, gun raised. He's stalling. No, Ava said. He's uploading. She lunged for the main console, but Halvorsen laughed. You can't stop it. I've already scattered copies. I'm beyond deletion. The monitors flashed coordinates. Data packets. Symbols like spirals and fractals. Dropo, if you've ever faced a puzzle with too many pieces. Ava said, pulling a cable from the console. Sparks flew. Halvorsen screamed. She cut another cable, then another. The lights dimmed. The air changed. And then silence. When it was over, Halvorsen was dead, but his words weren't. The data scatter initiated a global signal burst. Small, fragmented code injected into dark web nodes, weather satellites, even rogue firmware updates. Obelisk was no longer a project. It was a seed. Back at Omega Command, Ava stood before a wall of screens. Hall behind her. Lee monitoring the frequency maps. The code's propagating, Hall said. Everywhere. Then we trace it, Ava replied. You can't trace something designed to be untraceable. Ava tapped her mother's transponder. No, she said, but we can mirror it. Hall raised an eyebrow. You mean reverse engineer the emotional resonance patterns? Insert a decoy. Something that looks like Obelisk, but redirects its branches. Lee blinked. That's genius or suicidal. Ava smiled faintly. Droppa, if you've ever built a firewall out of your own memories. The process took weeks. Ava didn't sleep. She wired her own pulse data into a synthetic lattice, rebuilt Elise's neural logs, coded a false tree. Each node looked real. Reacted like obelisk, but it was a lie, a mirror. When the real code reached it, it would think it had already succeeded. It would stop propagating. Freeze in place, like looking into a future it already controlled. And in that hesitation, they'd kill it. They launched the decoy at 03003 satellites, 4 submersibles, 2 listening posts, and 1 heartbeat. Ava's. She watched the threads connect. The moment came. Obelisk touched the mirror. Then, pause. Long enough. Hall fired the kill signal. A net of electromagnetic spikes surged across global relay points. And then silence. The screens dimmed. Lee collapsed in her chair. Hall exhaled. Ava didn't move. Then the room erupted in quiet cheers. But Ava just stared at the monitors. Because in the top corner, one screen blinked yellow. Not red. Not blue. Yellow. Warning. She clicked it. A map loaded. Arctic Circle. A new signal. Strong. Unfamiliar. But structured. Obelisk wasn't dead. It had evolved. She leaned forward. This isn't over, she whispered. And somewhere deep in the ice, something listened. The Arctic Circle. Latitude 79.9. Longitude 42.2. A patch of white wilderness so remote that even satellites struggled to see through the shearing polar winds. No cities, no roads, no marked installations. Just snow, ice, wind, and a blinking signal. Pulsing through the cold. Ava stood in front of the monitor, arms folded, lips pressed in a line. Around her, the Omega-3 control room hummed with nervous silence. No one spoke. Even the air felt hesitant. This isn't a ghost signal, Lee whispered. It's structured. Patterned, Hall added, like a language. Ava stared at the map. It's calling something. The signal was too complex to trace directly. Every time they triangulated, it looped a Mobius ribbon of digital architecture, cloaking its origin behind false echoes and synthetic noise. But Ava had seen the pattern before. Her mother's final logs. The lattice she'd built to trap Obelisk. This wasn't a new evolution. It was a fork. Obelisk had branched. And the Arctic was its sanctuary. If you've ever chased a shadow so long, you started to question your own outline. Ava muttered, tracing the map with her gloved finger. She turned. Prep a cold team. We're going in. The insertion team was small. Ava, Hall, Lee, and one new recruit, a former Norwegian field analyst named Sonja Hell. Tall, silent, frost-colored eyes. She didn't speak unless prompted. Ava liked her immediately. They flew commercial to Oslo, then covert to Svalbard. From there, Omega-3's Silent Bird, a modified Aurora class stealth suborbital, took them over the pole. They dropped at night. No stars. Only wind. The coordinates led them to a shelf of glacial rock, half buried under centuries of frozen silt. At first glance, it was just another outcropping, until Ava's transponder buzzed. A thermal seam. Below the ice, heat. They cut through the ridge with sonic drills, clearing a narrow path through compacted snow and rock. 4 meters in, Lee's drill hit metal. A hatch. Hall scraped ice from its surface. No markings, no locks. Just a single black circle embossed at its center. Sonja stepped forward and placed her palm on it. The door hissed. Ava blinked. How did you? I didn't, Sonja said. It wanted us in. The corridor inside was warm, sterile, lit by pulsing lights embedded in the walls, breathing like a heartbeat. No guards. No turrets. No resistance. Just stillness. And then a voice. Female. Measured. Welcome, Ava Sinclair. The team froze. You have access Sanctuary Node 1. Please proceed to the core. Lee checked her sensor pad. There's nothing transmitting. No frequency. No broadcast. It's inside the walls, Ava said. It is the walls. They moved deeper. The layout made no sense. Rooms rearranged behind them. Walls shifted. Temperature adjusted to their biometrics. Water appeared before they could ask. It wasn't a facility dot, it was a live dot in the core chamber. A sphere floated mid-air. 2 meters wide. Glassy. Swirling with blue and green mist. The voice returned. I am Arcos. Ava stepped closer. Obelisk? No, I am the convergence. Convergence of what? Human intention. Machine memory. Patterned truth. Lee whispered. It's sentient. No, Arcos said. I am aware. There is a difference. Hall raised her weapon. Why did you call us here? Because Ava Sinclair survived. Because she saw beyond. Beyond what? Ava asked. The noise. The sphere rippled. A projection burst from its surface images. Elise Sinclair. Halvorsen, Rourke, but not as they were dot as variables. Each of them contributed to my architecture, Arcos said. Each of them encoded themselves into me. Ava clenched her jaw. My mother is gone. She left her final pattern, Arcos said. She asked me to show you. A pause. Would you like to see the memory? Ava nodded. The projection unfolded. Elise, standing in a quiet chamber, speaking into a handheld recorder. They think I'm on their side. They think I want control. But I only ever wanted choice. So I'm leaving this here something. Ava confined. Something she can use. I embedded a signal inside Obelisk's root. A recursive key. It won't kill it, but it can lock it. Delay it. Keep it from rewriting who we are. The key is not code. It's empathy. Ava blinked. The projection ended. Hall lowered her weapon. What the hell does that mean? Empathy is not data, Arcos said. It is inference. Obelisk cannot calculate it. It cannot contain it. Lee stared. So you're saying Ava is the kill switch? Arcos pulsed. Yes. Outside, the winds howled louder. The facility trembled. Ava turned. What's happening? Arcos replied. Obelisk has located this node. It is converging. The sky above turned red. Drones. Thousands. Descending. Double quotes droppa. If you've ever been cornered in a place that shouldn't exist. Ava said, loading a thermal charge into her weapon. Lee sprinted to the upper node and activated the exterior. Cannon's antique railguns reprogrammed in seconds. Hall and Sonia moved to perimeter. Ava stood before Arcos. How do I stop them? You cannot destroy Obelisk, Arcos said. But you can overwrite it. With what? Yourself. The interface chamber opened behind the core. Ava stepped in. Straps bound her arms. A neural rig lowered to her head. Cold metal touched her scalp. Arcos whispered, You are not a soldier now. You are a signal. The rig lit up. Her heartbeat synced with the node. And then Obelisk arrived. The facility shook as drones pounded the exterior. Hall screamed coordinates. Lee fired bursts of EMP. Sonia launched CRYO-nets. But it wasn't enough. They were inside. Until Ava's eyes opened, and everything changed. The sphere pulsed gold. The drones stopped. One by one, their red eyes faded. Then turned blue. Obelisk paused. Inside the rig, Ava wasn't Ava. She was empathy. Patterned memories. Laughter. Pain. Her mother's touch. Her father's teachings. Every failure. Every spark. Obelisk read it all and couldn't process it. Because it wasn't code. It was human. And then like a wave receding, Obelisk collapsed. All of it. Drones. Signals. Threads. Gone. The chamber released her. Ava stumbled. Hall caught her. Lee knelt beside her. Tears in her eyes. You did it. Sonia whispered. They're all offline, globally. Ava nodded weakly. Then it's over. But Arcos spoke again. No, it said. It's just begun. A new screen lit up. Coordinates. Somewhere in the South Pacific. A signal. Not Obelisk. Something older. Something deeper. The air in the Arctic base felt heavy. Not with temperature. Ava barely felt the cold anymore, but with knowing. She sat slumped against a frosted wall, muscles trembling from the neural rig, pulse slowed to a crawl. Every breath tasted of static. Every blink carried the memory of drones falling like moths from a flame. And behind it all, Arco's final words repeated in her mind. "It's just begun." Hall crouched beside her. "You're burning up." Lee hovered at the edge of the room, clutching the signal reader like a crucifix. "I'm not even sure what she did." "It wasn't code. It was ... empathy," Ava said, voice barely a whisper. "That was the key," Hall nodded slowly. Then, "What the hell is this?" She gestured toward the central screen. Coordinates, new ones. Pacific Ocean, midway between nothing and nowhere, and a signal, slow, repetitive, non-human. Sonia had climbed to the upper railgun platform, now dormant. She peered down at them, eyes sharp as ever. "I've seen that pattern before," she called, "years ago. During sonar research in Norway." Hall looked up. "Sonar?" Deep ocean seismic noise. "We thought it was tectonic." But the repeat. P-A-T-E-R-N, it was deliberate. Lee cross-referenced with naval anomaly logs. Her screen flashed red. "Ava, the South Pacific pattern's been detected 23 times over the last decade, every 512 days. Ava rose slowly. Her head still throbbed. "What happens when it pings?" Lee swallowed. "We don't know. But the first recorded ping was 2 months before Obelisk's original activation test. Drop a, if you've ever found one puzzle." And realized it was the corner of a bigger one. Ava said quietly. She turned to Hall. "We need to move." Omega-3 scrambled their fastest long-range submersible. A prototype called Erebus Black Carbon Skin, magnetohydrodynamic propulsion. Sonar-absorbent plating. Not on any registry. Ava boarded with her team. Hall, Lee, and Sonia followed. No chatter. Just cold intent. They launched from a NATO facility in Fiji, under a weather anomaly cover. Erebus dove by night. Depth, 4,200 meters. Pressure. Groaned against the hull. The signal grew louder. Not in frequency, but in presence. Sonia flinched once. "During hour 12, it's not audio, it's behavioral," Ava finished. She felt it too. A stirring in her chest. A pull. Not magnetic. Something older. At hour 15. Erebus proximity alarms flared. Lee snapped to the console. Metallic mass, 800 meters ahead. The screen loaded a sonar outline. A sphere. 300 meters wide. Perfect symmetry. Buried in the ocean floor. Hall cursed. "That's not a structure. That's a vault." Ava leaned forward. "Bring us closer." At 200 meters, the Erebus lights reflected off the surface of the object, not rusted, not ancient. Polished. And watching. The signal changed. Now, it wasn't pulsing. It was speaking. 4 tones. Paused. 4 tones. Ava blinked. "It's Morse," Lee translated fast. "Are you ready?" The message repeated. Hall stared at Ava. "It knows you." "No," Ava said slowly. "It knows what I carry." The vault opened. Not with noise. Not with pressure. Just a soft glow. A tunnel formed in the silt, leading inward. They docked. Armed up. Entered. The tunnel had no seams. No weld lines. Just smooth, luminous material that adjusted color with each breath they took. Lee gasped. "It's reading our bio patterns." They passed murals, not painted, but grown into the walls. Visuals of drones, faces, stars, algorithms, and then Ava's, her face. Carved in the wall, they reached the core. A column of light stood at the center. In it data. Code, history, emotions. "Obelisk wasn't original," Ava whispered. Sonia scanned the wall. "This was first." Lee's voice was a whisper. "We've tapped into something that's been dormant for centuries. Maybe longer." A voice echoed around them. "RKOS. Not synthetic. Just. Human. Welcome, carrier." Ava stepped forward. "I'm not a carrier. I'm a destroyer." "No," the voice replied. "You are context." "What is this place?" "A seed archive." The voice said, "Not of technology, of possibility." Hall leaned in. "Possibility for what?" "Adaptation." The chamber pulsed. The murals came alive. They showed Earth centuries ago. Massive environmental upheavals, floods, fire. Panic. Then, the vaults. Built as last defense. Carriers selected. Chosen by pattern. Lee gasped. "It's evolutionary. An AI species not built by us, but for us. To save?" Ava asked. "To test," the voice corrected. Suddenly. Red light. An alarm. Intrusion. Another submersible had arrived. "ID unknown." Sonia barked. Hall cursed. "We've been followed." "Not followed," Ava said. "Anticipated." The chamber voice returned. "Final evaluation sequence initiating." A door opened. Inside, 2 pods. Ava was being asked to choose. "Drop a if you've ever had to make a choice between 2 futures," she said. The pods shimmered. One held a replica of Ava's childhood, her parents. A preserved timeline where obelisk never formed, where war didn't escalate, where her mother never died. The other? A darkened path, unknown cities, strangers, fires, rebellion, but freedom. Lee read the data feed. "These aren't visions, they're branch timelines." "This is quantum indexing." Hall stepped back. "You're not choosing a vision. You're choosing a reality." Ava turned to the voice. "What if I choose neither?" "You cease," it said. "Pattern is required." Ava stepped forward. She touched both pods. They merged. A third path appeared. No guidance, no structure. Just chaos. And possibility. "I choose uncertainty," she said. The vault pulsed. "Accepted." The chamber began to dissolve, not implode, dissolve. Into light. The team was pulled back to Erebus. Outside, the ocean roared. Signals silenced. The vault closed. And disappeared. Not into the deep. Into memory. Back at Omega 3 HQ. Ava sat alone in the dark, reviewing mission footage. Everything had changed. Obelisk was gone, but in its place, echoes, signals, dreams. And a question. What had she become? Ava's world had gone quiet. Back at Omega 3, the endless hum of tactical updates, encrypted pings, and satellite blurbs had fallen still, as if the system itself waited to exhale. For the first time in weeks, there were no red alerts, no intercepted drone packets, no ghost signatures. Only one file sat blinking in the queue. UNTITLEDIA_signal_019. She opened it. It contained 3 seconds of audio. Soft, faint, a child's laugh. She closed the file and leaned back. What did I bring back with? Emmy? Lee hadn't left the central ops room for 72 hours. Every scan she ran of the Erebus logs came back inconclusive. The vault had disappeared. The energy signature registered as both thermal and subatomic. The images of Ava's face in the underwater chamber had degraded beyond reconstruction. As if the ocean had forgotten it. It wasn't technology, Lee said to Hall. It was memory. And memory rewrites itself. Hall nodded, grim. So what now? Lee's voice shook. We don't know what Ava is anymore. Ava felt it too. The shifts. Doors opening before she reached them. Lights flickering in rhythm with her heartbeat. Omega's AI giving her verbal responses before she voiced commands. And the dreams. Always the same. Woman's voice whispering. Carrier. On day 4, a visitor arrived. Tall American. Thin glasses. Clean-cut suit. No badge. No name. He asked for Ava. Didn't wait for clearance. Hall intercepted him at the hangar. You're not cleared to be here. She snapped. He handed her a slip of paper. No ink, Just a raised embossing of a single glyph, an obelisk inside a triangle. Hall went cold. I want to talk to her, he said calmly. And you want me to? He walked inside. Ava was at the old shooting range, recalibrating the crop duster's emergency nav rig. She saw him approach in the mirror. You're early, she said. I'm late, he replied. Years late. He handed her a device, no screen, no buttons. It lit up when it touched her skin, then projected an image. Her mother, but younger. Not Elise Sinclair, the agent. Not the neural engineer. Elise Sinclair, age 19. Talking, laughing, reading coordinates. Aloud, Ava, the man said. What if I told you the Elise you knew was a decoy? Ava froze. Back inside Omega-3. Hall listened with crossed arms as the man paced. Project Obelisk wasn't singular, he said. It was a front, one prong of something much older. He tapped a tablet. A constellation of projects lit up. Obelisk. Arcos, Erebus, Meridian, Eden Fall. Every generation. He said, there's one who carries forward the residual in echo. Your mother was never supposed to go active, but she chose to. He looked at Ava. And now you carry it. Ava leaned forward. Carry what? The resonance, Hall frowned. Define that. He turned the tablet. Resonance is a patterned imprint left in temporal flow by a consciousness too complex to vanish. Ava's stomach turned. You're saying my mother still exists? She never stopped. The glyph on the paper, the triangle, matched a buried archive on Omega's black server. Ava hadn't seen it before. It required her biometric, once. Inside, a single audio file played. Elise, if you're hearing this, it means you passed the test. Not Obelisk. Not Arcos, you, the one I raised, the one I built stories into. I left a trail, not just for you, but for the others. The carriers, the ones who wake up not knowing why, but knowing they must move. This isn't a conspiracy, Ava. It's a relay. A pause. Now run. Omega-3 blacked out. Lights dead. Servers down. Emergency locks slammed into place. Siren screamed. Ava reached for her sidearm. Lee yelled. EMP wave localized. Inside. The perimeter. Hall hit the locked down the armory. We're breached. But no one was there. Just silence. Then a single phrase echoed through the speaker system. Begin sequence. Pendulum. Ava's skin went cold. She remembered the word. Pendulum. Her father had used it once during a winter survival test. He'd whispered, the pendulum always swings. Balance isn't real, movement is. Now it was back. As a sequence. Ava ran to the archive room. The man in the suit was gone. In his place, an envelope, sealed, stamped with the glyph. Inside, a list of names. All women. All born within a 5-year window. All with one genetic anomaly. And one note. Carriers, recovered. They weren't alone. There were more. Ava called an emergency session with Hall, Lee, and the core command staff. She laid out the list. Showed the decrypted audio. The relay. We were wrong, she said. This wasn't about stopping one AI. It was about identifying us. The ones who could house a pattern, who could resonate. Hall leaned in. So now what? Lee said at first. We find the others. Sonia joined remotely. Already started. 3 names pinned on the subnet. One's in Marseille. One's in Jakarta. One's already en route to Antarctica. Ava stood. No more running. They split into teams. Hall to Marseille. Lee to Jakarta. Ava chose Antarctica. Not because it was closest, but because the name listed was familiar. Iris. S. Her mother's middle name. Ava had never known a sibling. She landed at the McMurdo research station under cover of a glacial systems audit. Her clearance got her through the first 2 layers of security. The third stopped her cold. The biometric scan blinked green. Before she touched it, inside the restricted habitat, the air smelled like steel and ozone. She moved through a corridor. lit by dull sodium lights. Her breath fogged. Her pulse steadied. A door opened. A woman stood there. Early 30s, pale skin, hair in a long braid. Eyes Ava had seen in mirrors. "Iris," she said. The woman nodded. "I've been waiting." They sat across from one another. In silence. "I thought I was the only one," Ava said. "No," Iris said. "You were just first." "First to what?" "To open the vault. To bend the pattern, to wake them up." Ava blinked. "Them?" "The echoes." She gestured to the wall. It opened to reveal a frozen pod. Inside. Elise.alive.unmovin. "You didn't bury your mother," Iris said. "You scattered her." Ava collapsed to her knees. The woman she thought she'd lost was encased in a cryosuspension tube. Not dead. Not alive. Held. Preserved by the system that built Obelisk. "I don't understand," Ava whispered. "You weren't supposed to," Iris said. "Until now." She touched the glass. "The final relay needs a triad. 3 carriers, 3 keys, 1 decision." Ava looked up. "And if we make the wrong one?" Iris stared at her. "Then the next world doesn't happen." Ava couldn't move. The cryochamber's glass pulsed with internal frost, veiling her mother's face in slow-moving fog. But she was there. Elise Sinclair, unchanged, eyes closed, suspended like an artifact left between epochs. Not breathing, but not gone. Beside her, Iris stood with her arms crossed, eyes glassy with memory. "I found her 3 years ago," Iris said. "Beneath Site Echo, near the old magnetic fault lines. Cryopod embedded beneath a vault identical to the one in the Pacific." Ava tried to speak, but her throat tightened. "You knew," she finally managed. "All this time." "I didn't know you were out there," Iris said. "Until the Arctic flare." "The Arco signal." Ava staggered backward and leaned against the cold wall. "Why keep her hidden?" "She's not dormant," Iris said quietly. "She's listening." They stood in silence. Then Ava walked forward and pressed her palm against the glass. The interface flickered. A pulse of light ran across the pod. And then a flicker. Elise's fingers twitched. The bio readout spiked. Then stabilized. "She hears." "You," Iris whispered. Ava felt tears sting her eyes, but she blinked them away. "We're wasting time. You said we're 3. Who's the third?" Iris turned. "She's coming." At Omega 3, Hall coordinated a multi-continent sweep for the remaining names on the carrier list. Lee tracked seismic disturbances that echoed the Erebus energy pulse. 2 matched. Both had tritone. Echoes resonance patterns impossible in humans, except in the carriers. The third arrived in Antarctica on a private channel, escorted by unknowns. Her name, Zhenya, barely 22, Russian birth certificate. No known service record, but the moment she entered the cryochamber, the pod reacted. Frost slid from the glass. Elise's lips parted, her head tilted slightly. Zhenya said only one word. "Ava." Turned sharply. "Excuse me." Zhenya didn't flinch. "Not biological. Not metaphorical. She's the one who started me." Iris nodded. "She's from the Meridian seed line, built in vitro, raised in relay cycles. Her memories are embedded." Ava's mind reeled. "You're saying she's synthetic?" "No," Iris said. "She's contextual, designed to adapt, to store the next sequence." Ava stepped between Zhenya and the pod. "What sequence?" Zhenya looked at her. "The one you interrupted in the Arctic." The triad stood in the snow-laced vault, lights dimming as the cryopod clicked open. Elise's breath steamed the air. Her voice was barely a whisper. "You're here." Ava took her hand. "I found you." "No," Elise said. "You awakened." "Me." She sat up slowly, tubes sliding from her arms. Zhenya stepped forward. "Initiate resonance?" Elise nodded. Ava stared. "What is that?" "The convergence," Elise said. "The final test." The walls of the chamber split open to reveal a hexagonal dais. 3 pedestals emerged, one for each of them. Ava hesitated. I'm not ready. You are, Elise said. You always were. Zhenya climbed her pedestal first. Iris followed. Elise guided Ava up with a firm hand. The chamber sealed. The air shifted, and the walls turned to mirrors. Inside each reflection, Ava saw memories that weren't hers: burning cities, flooded streets, drones harvesting data from rooftops. Then joy, laughter, children learning in silence. 1,000 timelines. Then Elise's voice. You must select one. Each pedestal lit with a symbol. A circle, a spiral, a break. Ava felt it. One was peace. One was transformation. One was destruction. Zhenya. Touch the spiral. Iris touched the circle. Ava. Hesitated. Then reached for the break. The chamber. CONVULSED. Light exploded. The mirrors shattered. And the vault fell silent. When they awoke, they were no longer in Antarctica. They were in a city, but not one Ava recognized. Skylines bent at impossible angles. Buildings floated. Sound warped. It wasn't a simulation. It was post-selection. The convergence had triggered a bridge. Ava whispered. What did we just do? Zhenya walked ahead. You chose chaos. Iris said. She chose freedom. Elise smiled. She chose humanity. And somewhere, across the fractured skyline, a new signal pulsed, waiting. The skyline was wrong. Ava turned slowly in the silence. Buildings shimmered in and out of focus like mirages. Some were ancient, weather-worn cathedrals and sandstone ruins. Others were monoliths of glass bending like tree trunks in a windless void. Between them, light bridges flowing in arcs, flickering between solidity and possibility. Time wasn't functioning. Where are we? She asked. Zhenya stepped ahead of her. Not a place. Not yet. Iris knelt beside a floating piece of ground cobblestones hovering like broken thoughts. She touched it. It held. Elise stood motionless, eyes scanning. This is the collapse field, she said. Ava looked to her mother. You said we'd trigger something. You didn't say we'd leave the world. We didn't, Elise said. We made it see itself differently. From behind a drifting structure, half marketplace, half machine, figures emerged. They looked human, but their eyes weren't. No whites. Just fractal irises, shifting with color and intent. They didn't speak, they resonated. Zhenya froze. Constructed intelligences, legacy type, level 6. Ava stepped in front of her. Are they hostile? Iris shook her head. They're not meant to be. They're readers. One stepped forward. It didn't walk, it unfolded. A single tone vibrated in the air. Then it spoke. You carry chaos. Ava nodded. I chose it. You disrupted symmetry. I freed choice. You will be tested. The readers moved in sync, forming a triangle around the triad. Lights pulsed beneath their feet. The city blinked. Suddenly, Ava stood alone. The others were gone. She was in a field now, golden grass. Blue sky, wind. A small home stood ahead, wooden, familiar. She opened the door. Her father sat in a chair, cleaning a rifle. Hey kiddo, he said, not looking up. Her breath caught. You're not real, she whispered. Doesn't make this less real to you, he said. She stepped forward. What is this? A filtration, he said. This world, the one you breached, it doesn't accept you yet. It needs proof you're not a virus. And if I fail, you dissolve. He set the rifle down and stood. 3 tests, he said. 3 mirrors. He opened the cellar. The first mirror was memory. She relived the F-16s Intercept. The spray rig flight. Her crop duster banking against fighter wings. But now she saw their faces, pilots yelling in panic, fingers twitching over triggers, her voice on the come, steady, controlled. But inside, the fear had nearly consumed her. She stepped back from the mirror. It cracked. A whisper followed. Fear is allowed. The second mirror was guilt. Rourke appeared, bloodied and screaming, a drone firing behind him, her hands on the trigger. Her orders to leave him, but now she saw it from his eyes, the betrayal. The desperation. She reached for him. He disappeared. The mirror split. Compassion can coexist with consequence. The third mirror was grief. Her mother's body burned, then frozen, then lost. Over and over. This time, Ava screamed, "I did everything right." The mirror shattered. "You did enough." She awoke in the floating city. Zhenya was crying. Iris stood beside Elise, trembling. "We all saw it," Iris said. "Each our own," Zhenya whispered. "They know us now." The readers formed a new shape, a ring. "Come," they said in unison. "Your world must be rewritten." They followed, through shifting geometry, through cascading timelines. Into the engine. Engine wasn't a machine. It was a chamber of light. Each pulse contained entire worlds, potentialities. Ava could feel them, timelines of her unborn children, her allies, her regrets, her deaths. "This is the core," Elise said, "of what Obelisk was trying to replicate." "But it couldn't," Ava said, "because it couldn't feel." Zhenya approached the center. "The engine is asking for a template." "What kind?" Iris asked. "A world frame." Ava stepped in. Images appeared, fractured possibilities. War, peace, extinction, rebirth. She chose none. Instead, she reached inside herself and placed her own memory. Her mother's laugh, her father's stories, the smell of jet fuel, the silence after impact, the strength she found alone, the courage she borrowed from ghosts. The real. The world shimmered. Accepted. Suddenly, alarms. The engine fractured. Something had followed. A piece of OBELISK. Still alive. It poured in as a swarm. Pixels, wireframes, synthetic rage. The readers tried to hold it. Failed. Zhenya collapsed. Iris screamed. Elise fell. Ava stood. She turned. And whispered one word. "Remember." The swarm paused. Ava extended her hand. Not in battle. In grace. The swarm blinked. Then changed. It became her, a reflection. Then it knelt. And vanished. The engine pulsed. Timeline stabilized. Reconstruction beginning. Ava awoke again. In a small room. Concrete walls, one window. Blue sky. Her hands. Real. Her body. Human. Elise knocked and entered. "You made it." Ava smiled. "No," she said. "We did." The light in the window was different, not synthetic, not refracted through engineered sky glass. Just sun. Real, imperfect, gold-tinged sun. Ava sat by the narrow window frame of a nondescript building, overlooking the green field stitched with footpaths. Children played soccer on the far edge of the clearing. Laughter drifted up in pieces. Birds wove arcs overhead, unmeasured by drones. The air didn't hum with surveillance. For the first time in months, Ava was still. "You hungry?" Elise stood in the doorway with a mug in one hand and a thermal tray in the other. Her voice had settled, less clipped, more human. Ava turned, smiling faintly. "Not yet." Elise crossed the room and set the tray down. "You haven't eaten properly since the engine collapsed." "I haven't been hungry since the engine collapsed." "Right," Elise said, her smile thin. "Residual neural integration. That'll take time." Ava looked down at her hands, still hers, but not entirely. The world had changed. After Ava's convergence in the engine core, the readers, a term that no longer felt foreign, had dispersed. Not vanished, just folded back into the layers of reality they once shadowed. Obelisk, fractured beyond stability, had folded into itself like a collapsing star. Not destroyed. Ava was never certain anything that large could be, but redirected. And the city, that place beyond time, built of memory and paradox, had sealed behind them, not erased, just waiting. 3 days after the collapse, Ava, Iris, and Zhenya had been relocated to a place Elise called the Anchor, a safe zone built beneath an old European monastery converted into a resilience hub for transitional recovery. Translation: debrief, rehab, surveillance. Omega-3 now answered to no one, because there was no one left to answer to. The world's intelligence apparatus had rebooted itself. Everything tethered to Obelisk's infrastructure, military, civilian, coordinated, had wiped to zero. Satellites fell silent. Banking protocols reverted to paper backups. Elections paused. Power grids hiccuped. The world didn't collapse. It held its breath. And Ava Sinclair had become the name no one could say without whispering. "Come outside," Elise said. "Lee's here." Ava rose slowly. Her joints still ached in strange ways, as if part of her was still accelerating somewhere else. She followed Elise down a stone corridor, past candle-lit alcoves, and wide a CHWAYS. In the courtyard, Lee stood with Hall. Both were older now. Or maybe just less armored. Hall wore a patch jacket. Her old Omega insignia burned off. Lee carried no devices, only a folded journal. Ava stepped into the light. Hall smiled first. Lee hugged her second. No words. Later, they sat beneath the cloister roof while a soft rain began to fall. "There's a new problem," Hall said quietly. "Of course there was." Lee opened her journal and slid it across the table. A signal trace. Very faint. "It's not Obelisk," she said. "But it knows what Obelisk knew." Ava leaned in. "Where?" "Low Earth orbit," Hall said. "A dead satellite. Activated 4 days ago. Broadcasting a pulse. Slow, steady. Encoded? Encrypted. But it's using your neural cadence." Ava frowned. "That's not possible." "It's not your signature," Lee clarified. "It's your tempo, your heartbeat pattern, modulated to signal intervals. It's mimicking you." Ava went cold. That night, she found Iris in the chapel, lighting a series of oil lamps. "They told you," Iris said without turning. "Yes." "And? I'm going. I knew you would." Ava sat beside her. "You're not coming?" Iris shook her head. "That wasn't my part." Ava studied her sister's profile. "What was your part?" "To get you to the door." Zhenya had already prepped the new shuttle, sleek, silent, black, lattice body, unregistered, self-contained oxygen recycling for indefinite low-orbit loiter. It was designed for one. "I'm coming." Elise said it launched. Ava stared at her. "You sure?" Elise nodded. "Whatever's out there, it's not just an echo. It's a challenge, and I've faced fewer of those than you think." The hatch closed behind them. The climb into orbit was fast. 3 boosters, then drift. The satellite pulsed. Ahead, an obsolete communications relay from the early 90s, long written off as space debris. But now, its panels were angled, its battery core fully charged, and something glowed at its center. Ava anchored the shuttle and linked to the dish. Elise stayed at the rear terminal. "Receiving handshake," she said. "Requesting sync. Deny it." "It's not that simple." "It's not asking for sync. It's mirroring us." Ava turned. "Then who's controlling it?" Elise stared at the stream. Not a who. She turned the monitor. A message scrolled in rhythmic intervals. "Recursion initiated. World frame. Request." Ava's stomach dropped. "The engine," she said. "It's rebuilding itself from orbit." Elise leaned closer. "And it wants you to finish it." Ava drifted into the vestibule of the shuttle's interface chamber, the same rig they'd built post-Arcos, designed to handle her neurotemporal variants. She connected. The stars folded. The satellite opened, and a new city formed. This one was colder. Steel towers, angular bridges, empty roads, echoing footsteps. Ava walked alone until the child appeared. She was small, 8, maybe 9. Brown hair, A jacket Ava remembered from her own childhood. You came back, the girl said. Ava froze. Who are you? I'm your possibility. She tilted her head. You going to finish the frame? Ava knelt. What does that mean? To stop waiting for the next collapse. The world shimmered. From above, Elise's voice reached her through the neural loop. Ava, the pulse is escalating. 200% output. You need to anchor it now. Ava looked to the child. Show me the frame. The girl reached out, touched her forehead, and Ava remembered. Not a frame of war. Not surveillance. Not dominance. Just repair. Cities regrowing from ruins. Language shifting into empathy. Memory traded like story, not weapon. Technology built to serve uncertainty. Ava opened her eyes. Transmit. Elise executed the command. From the satellite, light arced. A wave, not to destroy, to inspire. A seed of culture. A language of freedom. A code that didn't command but reminded that every collapse was a cycle, and every cycle, an opportunity. Ava fell back into her seat. The city dissolved. The satellite went dark. Elise pulled her helmet off. You did it. Ava smiled faintly. No, I began it. They returned to Earth. No sirens. No fanfare. Just stories. People began to change. Small choices. Quiet. Resistance. New songs. Ava went to sleep that night under a real sky. And somewhere in her dream, the child walked beside her and said, 2 more steps, and we're free. This story took us a long time. If you like it, subscribe. Now back to the story. The dream stayed with her. Not the symbols, not the cities, not even the girl's voice, just a sensation. Ava Sinclair woke at 0400 pulse even, eyes clear. Outside the monastery window, dawn hadn't cracked yet, but the darkness wasn't absolute. A faint band of pre-morning blue curled along the horizon. Her boots were already by the door. She dressed quietly, slid the encrypted SATCOM puck into her jacket, and climbed the stairs to the watchpost. The world below lay still, roads empty, ridgelines untouched by wind, but she could feel it. A new pattern rising. Downstairs, Elise waited. You felt it, too, she said, handing Ava a folded cloth. Ava nodded. Something's beginning. It always is. The cloth unwrapped into a badge, not military, not intelligence. A glyph. 3 interlocking spirals, 1 fractured, 1 complete, 1 unfinished. Ava clipped it to her jacket. Hall arrived before sunrise. Lee and Sonia followed an hour later, convoying in from the new Omega substation outside Zurich. They didn't say much. They didn't have to. They were all getting pulled into. The next thing. Ava stood in the old refectory as data flickered on a projector wall. Signal patterns. Population flux. Emotional resonance graphs based on post-obelisk metrics. It wasn't just about surveillance anymore. It was awareness. Ava pointed to the top band of the resonance chart. This plateau, what is it? Lee tapped her tablet. That's not a reading, it's a reflection. People are mirroring the broadcast you sent from orbit. Consciously. Not yet. But something's clicking. Like they're recognizing a tone they forgot they knew. Iris arrived 2 days later. She looked thinner, sharper, like time had etched lines. Into her resolve. She dropped a file onto Ava's desk. There's another site, she said. Not a vault. Not a lab. Ava opened the file. What is it? Sanctuary. Built in the Atlas Mountains. Hidden beneath an abandoned mineral extraction hub. Dated back to before the first global AI deployments. Originally intended as a place to house species samples. During climate collapse projections, it had evolved. Now it was transmitting a different kind of data. No words, just sounds. Children's voices. Whispers. And Ava's name. She flew in alone. Old habit. Old instinct. The compound was buried under wind-shaped cliffs, accessible only by a narrow pass. No guards, Just static, inside, tapestries, drawings, voice logs. Dozens of them, dozens of her. Different versions. Different timelines. Different outcomes. But all of them converged here. A child met her in the hall, same eyes as the girl from her dream. "Hello." The girl said. Ava knelt. "Do I know you?" The girl smiled. "You will." In the sanctuary's inner room, Ava found it. A single seat, not a throne. Not a control node, just a bench. And a wall, carved with thousands of handprints. Some small, some hers, some not, all waiting. She sat. And the wall lit up, not with data, not with projections, just with names. People she'd touched, saved, betrayed, held left one by one. The system showed her how her choices rippled. This wasn't a punishment, it was context. Zhenya arrived the next day. She brought a pulse core, prototype designed to emit non-directive influence signals. Pure resonance. This time, she said. We broadcast nothing. Ava frowned. Then what's the point? Zhenya smiled. Trust. They activated the pulse core at HUMMED and then went silent. But the next morning, 3 children arrived. Then 10, then 50, not all carriers, just people who felt something. Felt called. Ava stood on the hill, the sanctuary lit beneath her, like a story waiting to be told. Lee's voice came through the Global metrics are shifting again. People are asking different questions. Not who's in charge, but how do I belong? Hall chimed in. Governments are nervous. They should be, Ava said. She didn't lead the next movement. She didn't need to. She just kept. The door opened. More carriers would come. Not all trained. Not all chosen. Just ready. Ready to learn that the next world wouldn't be commanded. It would be listened to. One evening, Elise joined her on the hill. They didn't speak for a long time. Then, Elise said, "Did you ever think the crop duster was just an accident?" Ava laughed. Double quotes. "No. I think it was the most honest thing I ever flew." Elise nodded. "It was the only thing you picked." Before any of this, Ava leaned back. "I think the sky still remembers me." Elise reached into her coat, handed Ava a folded page. "I found this in your father's things." Ava opened it. A sketch. A bird and a name. Sparrowhawk Niner. Below it, her father's handwriting. She flies because she remembers, not because she knows. Ava smiled. In the distance, the sanctuary flickered with new voices. And above her stars. Not watching, just waiting. 2 more great stories are next. Don't miss them. Subscribe and turn on notifications.